Now, in this lesson, we will discuss purchasing models and service tier in more detail. So let's try to add one more database on the server we created in last lesson. So let's go to the overview and go to the server. So now we are in the server portal, and here we have option to add new database. And here we can choose the database name and then source. Let's choose a blank database server, elastic pool setting, and finally we have to choose here the pricing tier. This is what we are going to discuss in this lecture. So if I click on pricing tier, we have two purchasing model, DTU and VCore based model. Within the DTU, there are three tiers: basic, standard, and premium. And if we switch to the VCore based purchasing options, we also have three service tiers options: general purpose, hyperscale, and business critical. As you can see in this diagram, we have two purchasing models, DTU and VCore, and three service tiers in each. Microsoft describes DTU as a blended measure of CPU, memory, and I/O. This guarantees a certain level of compute, storage, and I/O resources. You assign a bundle of resources to your Azure SQL database. You cannot adjust individual resources such as compute or memory. 100 DTU is twice as much as 50 DTU, and 200 DTU is twice as much as 100 DTU. Calculating with DTUs is relatively simple. You primarily need to compare them and evaluate what each compute size offers. These compute sizes are available within the service tiers like basic, standard, and premium. Each tier consists of multiple sizes, and each size provides varying scale of not just DTU but maximum database sizing, storage capacity, and storage performance. The other purchasing model is the VCore based purchasing model, which is newer offering comparing to DTU based. This purchasing model gives you the option to choose between generations of hardware, number of CPU cores, memory, and storage size. In this purchasing model, you have more flexibility in adjusting individual resources such as CPU, memory, or storage. It is designed to address the fine-tuning of CPU power and storage performance separately and in a more transparent way. Microsoft recommends VCore-based purchasing model. So let's compare these two purchasing models in more detail. The VCore-based purchasing model is supported by all three deployment options, including single database, elastic pools, and managed instance. On the other hand, DTU-based purchasing model is only supported by single database and elastic pool. The VCore-based model is best for customers who need flexibility, control, and transparency. As you saw in this model, you have the flexibility to adjust individual resources such as CPU, memory, and storage. The DTU-based model is best for customers who want simple and pre-configured resource options. The VCore-based model gives you a straightforward way to translate on-premises workloads to the cloud. You know how much resources you use on your on-premises server. You can easily translate those resources to the corresponding value of the VCore-based model. However, you might need to calculate the needed amount of DTUs before migration from your on-premises database. There are tools such as DTU Calculator which you can use for this purpose. Microsoft recommends the virtual core-based model. However, if the DTU-based purchasing model meets your performance and business requirement, you should continue using it. You are not obliged to change to the virtual core purchasing model. There are scenarios that you might want to consider converting DTU-based model to the VCore-based. If your single database or elastic pool consumes more than 300 DTUs, converting to the VCore-based model might reduce your cost. You can convert to the VCore-based model by using your API of choice, meaning Azure CLI, RESTful API, or PowerShell, or by using the Azure portal. And there is no downtime. And as we mentioned before, Azure SQL Database Managed Instance only supports VCore-based purchasing model. So if you are going with this deployment option, you have to choose VCore-based purchasing model. So far, we talked about the Azure SQL Database deployment options and purchasing models. The last concept to cover is Azure SQL Database service tiers. There are three service tiers for Azure SQL Database. The first one is the general purpose or standard. This service tier is designed for most generic workloads. Microsoft guarantees 4.9 SLA. Regarding the storage speed, there is a 2 millisecond read latency and 10 millisecond write latency. This performance is good enough for most workloads. The other service tier is the business critical or premium. This service tier is designed for applications requiring low latency. Same as the general purpose tier, Microsoft guarantees 4 nines of SLA. However, the storage is much faster in this service tier. There is 1 millisecond read latency and 2 millisecond of writing latency. Both these service tiers are available for all the deployment options. The last service tier is hyperscale. This is primarily intended for customers who have large database up to 100 terabyte in size. The other two service tiers, general purpose and business critical, are host databases up to 4 terabyte in size. Keep in mind that the hyperscale service tier is only available for the VCore purchasing model, and basic service model is only available in DTU purchasing model. So let's recap. In this module, we talked about three important Azure SQL database concepts. The first one is the deployment option. You can choose from single database, elastic pool, or managed instance. After choosing the deployment option, you need to choose a purchasing model. You can choose from DTU based or VCore based. The DTU based purchasing model is only available for single database and elastic pool. The VCore based purchasing model is available for all the deployment options. After decided the purchasing model, you need to decide the service tiers. You can choose among general purpose or standard, business critical or premium, and hyperscale. The hyperscale service tier is only available for the VCore based purchasing model. Now let's go back to the portal. Microsoft recommends using the VCore purchasing model, and that's why I'm getting the VCore purchasing model general purpose as my default. I could easily go ahead between different services tiers, including the hyperscale or business critical. But for this demo, I'm going to use the general purpose. So let's click on that and scroll down. So here I can decide how many virtual cores I am going to assign to my database. The default is 2 virtual cores. I can just use the slider and to go with the higher number of virtual cores if I need to. So I'm going to leave that vCore value to 2, and 32 GB of storage is more than enough for me. The other options you can control is to choose between compute generations. You can use from generation 4 or generation 5. Generation 4 gives you up to 24 virtual cores and 168 gigabyte of memory. Generation 5 gives you up to 80 number of virtual core and up to 408 gigabyte of memory. I'm going to choose generation 5, click OK. Now, one of the new concepts offered by Azure for Azure SQL database is the compute tier. I can choose between the more traditional provisioned tier or the new serverless tier. So the provision is the model we used so far. You know how much resources your database needs, including CPU, memory, and storage. So just go ahead and provision them. But the serverless tier is more interesting. In the serverless tier, Azure decides how much resources it needs to assign to your database. So if your database needs more resources, it automatically gets them. So let's click on serverless and see how our options change. First of all, by choosing serverless, I only have compute generation 5 available for me. So if you look here, there is no generation 4 here. And here I can get up to 16 virtual cores and 48 GB of memory. And here I can also assign the minimum VCores and maximum VCores I'm willing to assign to my database. So let's slide the 2 virtual core as my maximum, and I'm going to assign 1 to my minimum virtual core. So this means Azure is going to decide how many virtual core is assigned to my database based on the database load. The amount of virtual cores will not be less than 1 virtual core and won't be more than 2 virtual cores. So this is the nice feature because you can assign how big your database can become, and this is a way to control your cost. So now you also have the option to choose the DTU based purchasing model. To do so, simply click on looking for basic, standard, and premium link. Let's click on that, and here you can choose between the basic, standard, and premium service tiers. Standard is equivalent to the general purpose of VCore, and premium is similar to the business vertical of the VCore model. So let's click on standard. You can set the exact number of DTUs and storage you like to assign to your database. The same goes with the premium. You won't have the access to the serverless option in this purchasing model. So let's click on VCore based purchasing options once again and make sure you're going with the VCore purchasing model. And here we are once again in the VCore purchasing model. Here we have the general purpose. I can choose provisioned and VCore 2 and max data max size 3. And we also notice here the how much it is going to cost us. So this setting is going to cost us $426.29 per month. We click on apply